What is going on, YouTube people? Northeast Ohio Cards and Comics here, aka Neo, aka Rob. Pick one of the three, whatever you want to call me. I answer to a lot of things. Today, we're going to talk about one of my best returns ever on a card. I purposely did the video yesterday about the things that I have done the worst on, because I feel like you shouldn't talk about your best unless you're willing to talk about your worst. Because otherwise, what are we all doing here? You know, it's easy to flaunt all the W's, but you got to show the L's too. You know what I mean? And I think a lot of people are better about doing this, to be fair. I'm not taking shots at anyone or anything like that. I do think a lot more public people are more transparent about the things they take losses on, at least the people that I follow anyway. So we're going to dig in and talk about Vlad, because that's going to be the primary focus of this video. And along with a little story time and a little sliding doors / the path not taken and how it leads to other decisions. Basically, how every little buying and selling decision that we make has unintended ripple effects. So like, comment, subscribe. That's what we're going to talk about today. All right, let's dive in and talk about some Vlad Guerrero Jr. But before we do, I think we need a little story time first. The first card that I bought in this little adventure was actually a LeBron James Topps Chrome 2003 PSA 8. Much ballyhooed. I talked about it a bunch. I wanted a LeBron Topps Chrome. I was looking at an 8 or a 9 back on the dip when his stuff was all going down post them getting eliminated and all that shenanigans. And I had the money for a 9. 9s were running between 4 and 5K. I absolutely positively could have bought a 9. And I decided to go with an 8 because they were priced around 2K. The reason I went with the 8 was because I didn't want to tie up all my money into a card that I was not looking to move anytime soon. You know, if I bought a LeBron Topps Chrome 9 especially, I would not be looking to move that for a while because I know it would take me a long time to get into a PSA 10 of that. But the 8, I thought I could get into this now for around 2K. And to go from an 8 to a 9 is a much easier ask than to go from a 9 to a 10. So I could get in an 8. I still have cash on hand to be able to do other stuff with. And that's the direction that I went. That was a very, very important decision in this whole string of events that I'm about to unveil for you all. Because I bought the 8, I had $2,000 to $3,000 left over of the fun money pile, of the fake money pile, as I like to call it around here. Shortly after I bought that 8, I went to the local show. One of the local shows here in Northeast Ohio is the Canton Show. It rotates between Hartville and a exhibition or a little like wedding hall type restaurant place. Depending on the month, it rotates between those two locations. So I went there not looking for anything in particular. One of the dealers had a ton of Vlad Guerrero Jr. stuff. I was intrigued by his sapphires. He had Vlad sapphires. And I thought Vlad was kind of undervalued at the time anyways. I was kind of already heading down that path. I had some Vlad pink refractors and some other stuff, but nothing super high end. Vlad pink was like a $400 or $500 card. So I was actually inquiring about the sapphires, which he had very fairly priced. It was right at or slightly under current eBay comps. And he had a base refractor, which was also very fairly priced at the time, around $450 to $500. And then he had the purple, which I wasn't super familiar with. And I said, "Oh, what do you have on that?" And he said 1100. And I said, "Oh, okay, interesting." And in my mind, that just didn't sound right. He was talking about it and said, it's like pop 40. They're pretty rare. They're numbered out of 299. It was a really nice looking card. I said, "Oh, that's interesting." So I walked away from the table, went to the other side of the hall, and just did some quick research on it. And what I had found was that the purple had not sold in a month. And the last one to sell went for right around $1,000. Well, in the meantime, Vlad's stuff had gone up about 30 to 40% since the last sale of the purple. But he was still basing it off of the last comp, or very close to it, maybe slightly over. And to me, when he initially threw the number out, I just didn't think that it sounded correct. I thought it sounded too cheap. I was not in the market for Vlad per se. This just caught my eye. So I go back over. I say 1K. He says 1050. I say deal. The only reason I bought that card is I would not have bought that card if I bought the PSA 9 LeBron. There's no way in hell I would have dropped a K on a Vlad card if I had just spent 5K on a LeBron card. I like to keep a certain not a set amount, but I like to keep money in the fake money pile to be able to make moves on stuff if I see something that looks too cheap or whatever. But if I would have basically emptied that account or come close to it for the PSA 9 LeBron. But because I didn't do that, which was the key decision factor here, it led me to the purple. So I buy the purple. You can see it here where market movers on sold listings. You can ignore the Topps Heritage up there at the top. I just have this filtered by Vlad to make the list a little bit easier to look at. So we purchased that on 6/19 for $10.50 cash. I throw it up on eBay at a relatively high. I think I had it up there for 2K, maybe 2,100. And I get a message on Instagram that says, "Hey, is that your Vlad purple on eBay?" I say yes, and we start negotiating. So we ended up doing it was a little, I think it came out, it netted me $1,700. I think it was like $1,750. I netted 17 after 3% to PayPal and shipping the card off because I put a little bit of insurance on it as well. And that was 6 days later. So that was a $650 profit. So now I have $1,700 back in the coffers. And now I'm on the hunt for more Vlad. I was like, oh, I sold that one. I still would really like a really nice Vlad. And I started looking at sapphires again. At the same time, well, a couple days later, actually, as you could see on July 2nd, in early July, the same seller posts a Vlad purple for 2K, I think, and the blue for 32, 33, 3,400. I forget the exact price. Both about where those cards should be priced. And I was like, man, that Vlad blue is something else. And the purple was nice. And I was tracking them both. About a day goes by. I check back on them and I saw the purple sold for $1,200. And I looked at what he was asking for it at 2K and the fact that it sold for $1,200. And I was like, wow, he took a major cut on that card. I was like, all right, well, what the hell? So I threw a $1,800 offer in on the blue. And he immediately countered back at like 2,500. And I was like, I think it was 2,500. I was like, wow, he dropped $500, or it was priced over 3K, I think. But he dropped like $500 or $600 on the first counter offer. And I was like, okay, all right. I knew this guy was willing to drop a lot because he had just sold the purple for a lot lower than what he was initially asking for. So I circled back and I think I hit him with 2K. He came back at 2,300, which I almost accepted. And I was like, let me try one more time. And I went back with 2,100. And next thing you know, he accepts the offer. And then I had about a 30-second, not panic attack, but like, oh boy, I just spent $2,100 on a Vladimir Guerrero Jr. card after I just spent 2K on a LeBron card not long ago. And that's usually a little outside my comfort range. Like I said before, I usually just stay 2K and under and mostly 1K and under. $500 to $1,500 is usually my playground. So we're getting a little out of the comfort level on these ones. I get the card. It is gorgeous. And then I find out the following weekend at once again, the Canton show, but this time it was set up at Hartville. One of the dealers there watches the channel. And I was walking around and I cannot remember his name. Sorry. I know I've talked to you at multiple shows. I just get too many names thrown at me and it is hard to keep track of all of them. And I am bad with names to begin with. And he has a Vlad purple in his case. And I was like, oh man, you have a Vlad purple? When'd you get that? And he's like, well, I heard you talking about it, and one popped up on my slabs, and I got a really good deal on it. And I was like, wait a second. Is that the one that you got for like $1,200 when the guy was asking 2K and it shipped from South Korea or China or something? And he's like, yeah. And I was like, you've got to be kidding me. And then I showed him the Vlad Blue, and I said I bought the Vlad Blue from the same seller. So, because I've bought the original Vlad Purple and made the video about it, it put the Vlad Purple on this gentleman's radar. Because it put it on his radar, that Vlad Purple showed up on my slabs. He made a lowball offer on it, and that seller accepted it. Because I saw that seller accept the lowball offer on that Vlad Purple, I put a lowball offer in on the Vlad Blue and got it. I don't even put that offer in on the Vlad Blue if I don't see the Vlad Purple sell for what it sold for. So if that's not some weird small world coincidence, butterfly flaps its wings shenanigans, I don't know what else is. So we had a good laugh about that. And, then I had the Vlad Blue. Took it to the National. Was looking to move either that or the Sapphire that I had picked up in the meantime. Ended up moving the Sapphire. Shopped the Blue around. Had some interest in it, but there was no good comps on it. The last one had sold for $3K. It was a month ago. And a BGS, right as the National ended or during the National, a BGS 9.5 Min Gem, I think, went for $2,200. So my comp on that card to move it was $3,600. That's basing that off of about 60% of PSA 10 is what a BGS 9.5 usually goes for. And I had a few people inquire about it at the National. Inquire about it at the National. But more people were interested in the Sapphire, I think, just due to the price point of it. So I moved the Sapphire, which is fine. I bring the card home. I'm fully expecting to hold this card for a while. I am perfectly fine with that. And then in the SCI Discord, someone puts, looking for high-end baseball, Vlad Acuna, yada, yada, yada. Messaged the guy. I said, how high-end? And he said, pretty high-end. And I show him a picture of the card. He goes, holy smokes, that's really nice. What are you looking for on it? I said, 36. He said, 3. I said, that's last comp. This stuff's gone up. There's 22 of these. There's not another one for sale. He said, okay, let me think about it. He countered back like a day later at 3.1, I think. And I was like, I'm pretty firm at 3,600. In the meantime, I was talking to Filmington about this and a few other people. And I'm like, do I really move this Vlad? So I started to wrap my mind around, do I move this Vlad if this guy comes in with a strong offer, or do I just accept 31 and move on? And I was like, no, I want to hold firm to my price at around 36. I think that's the right number for this card. If it sells, it sells. If it doesn't, it doesn't. So he countered back. I think another day went by and he goes 34. He's like, that's comparable to a almost $3,900 eBay comp, which is fair because it is. When a 10% starts to add up real big, real quick when you're talking about higher end cards. And actually 13%. I'll get into that in a second. So he goes 3,400. I'll pay cash right now. He goes, I'll Zelle you, I'll PayPal friends and family, whatever you want. He's like, I trust you to send the card. So you don't have to worry about 3% to PayPal. I just ask that, you ship it like 2 to air or whatever, and maybe put some insurance on it. So I'm like, all right, let me think about this for a minute. So 3,400 was under my number, but it was it was a fair number, perfectly fair number. My original thought on this card was to hold it. And I talked about in the video yesterday about missing the window on the Giannis to sell. And I thought about that. And then I also thought about, okay, what's the best case scenario for this card? It's already up. I'm making 60% on it, essentially. What's the upside over the next 6 months, 12 months, whatever, for it to go up a lot more, like another 60% more or whatever? And I said, by next spring training, this could be a monster card. If they sneak into the playoffs and he does well, it could go up. And then there's a lot of bad things that could happen. And in my mind, the reason why I ended up selling it when I really wasn't necessarily planning on it was I felt like for me, and once again, this is for me, that I could do more with the 3,400 in cash than I could with the Vlad just sitting on my desk. I wanted to get the money out of the card and put it back to work, if you will, versus it just being a stagnant object waiting for the player and the market to decide for it to go up. I felt like I could use that money to go out and do more damage, if you will, than the card just sitting there. And that's ultimately why I decided to sell it when I initially was not planning on it. Now, part of it was, you had this card for a month, you're making a 62% return on it or whatever it was in 30 days. How do you turn that down? I always say they let you buy the cards back, and they do. And this card is rare. I would be able to find it if I really wanted it again. It might not be instant. I'm not going to be able to log on eBay necessarily and immediately find one, but if I'm patient, I could probably find one. At what price, God only knows. But this just felt like a no-brainer, getting into it for 2.1K and then being able to sell it for 3.4 full cash. So that is $3,400 straight into the bank account, not no PayPal fees, no eBay fees, or whatever. So I'm out like a little bit on that for shipping, but not a ton. So once again, to me, it was a no-brainer. Even though I didn't necessarily want to sell the card, it all came down to I could do more damage with the 3,400 than the Vlad sitting on my desk, in my opinion. Now, I've already taken a lot of that. I'm going to say 2.1 of the 3.4 is already spent buying Trae Young. I bought basically $2,100 worth of Trae Young last week. I talked about it in the video earlier this week with the PSA 9s being undervalued and the Optic PSA 10 being undervalued. So I got a few of those, which I was fairly public about last week when I picked those up. But that's where the money went. I still have 1.3 of that laying around. I'm not sure what I'm going to do with yet. I'll probably take that to the card show this weekend. I have 2 big card shows this weekend. I am 90% sure I'm going to the Xenia show on Saturday. It's 175 tables. It's a 3-hour drive, but the weather is supposed to be perfect. So I'm going to go check it out. Sunday is the Rated Rip show, about 60 to 70 tables. This is their second show. First one was excellent. And then I think the next weekend is a show in Youngstown, Ohio, and then maybe another Canton show. I'm missing my local show this Saturday to go to Xenia, but never been to the Xenia show. I want to check it out. So that was the conclusion on why I ended up selling the Vlad. I just felt like from this point moving forward, I personally had a better chance to make more money getting the 3.4K out of that card and putting it back into the market in different stuff than just sitting on that card. Maybe I'm wrong, but to make that kind of profit in a month and then to be able to take that and go buy stuff that I feel like is undervalued, Trae Young at the time, and then who knows what else, I still have some wiggle room there to make some other plays without digging back into the fake money pile. Fake money pile needs a little. Fake money pile's on vacation right now. It took a beating during the National, which was intended. That's what it was there for. I spent a lot at the National, so this allowed me to free up money to be able to go out and buy more stuff. And once again, my rule is I only spend hobby money on the hobby. I don't go into the real money to buy cards. That way, if this whole kit and caboodle goes upside down tomorrow, I'll care, but I won't care, if that makes sense. From a financial standpoint, yes, there'll be an opportunity cost to not selling out when things are higher, but I'll still be able to make my car payment tomorrow. I will still be able to go to the store and buy bread, eggs, and milk. That will not be affected. I can still make my house payment, no problem. But that is one of my hard and fast rules. Only use hobby-related money on hobby-related stuff, whether that's selling cards, selling comics, or I do include the money that I make from content creation into the fake money pile. Because this is, trust me, this is just as much of a grind as I look at this as, making the YouTube videos, and the money that I make off of that is me digging through dollar boxes and flipping dollar box cards for profit. Whether you agree with that or not, I don't know, but that's how I view it. So instead of doing that, I put my time and energy into this, which puts money in the fake money pile to go make plays. So my biggest flip ever. The most I've had higher percentage yields for sure, but that's the most I've ever made on a single transaction on a single card. And like I said, I thought the decision, the flow chart, if you will, on picking that up was interesting because it all went back to the decision to buy the LeBron Topps Chrome PSA 8 instead of the PSA 9. And then I think the other big decision point was actually selling the blue and not just holding it. I think 1 year ago, Rob would have held it. If we go back 1 year, I feel like I would have been like, nope, I'm holding this card. It's going to keep going way, way up. And it very well could. It very well could. I still believe in Vlad big time, and I'll actually be on the prowl for something else Vlad at the shows this weekend, potentially, because I do want to have a Vlad card, and I have none because I've sold or traded them all away rather quickly and unexpectedly in this case. So, but I do think 1 year ago, Rob would have held this card, not sold it. But I think this version of myself, whether right or wrong, I feel like I personally could do more with the 3,400 in cash than the card sitting on my desk. That's a you decision that you need to make. You know yourself, whatever card you're talking about. If you're in a similar boat to this, maybe you don't feel as confident in your abilities to go out and find undervalued stuff and be able to move it, etc. Maybe you do, but that's the look in the mirror moments that we have to have when we're doing this. Maybe I'll end up being wrong and the stuff that I buy tanks, and I'm going to look back and go, man, that Vlad Blue could be an iconic card if he goes on to have a monster career with multiple MVPs and a triple crown or who the hell knows what. There's a real chance by the end of the baseball season, by the time we get to October, that could be a 4.5K card. But if I make 2K off the 3.4 that I'm putting back into the market, then what does it matter? That's the thing you got to think about. When you sweat selling a card too early, follow the flow chart of what you did. You sold the card too early, but what did you do with the money that you got back from the card? Did you go buy other cards, and did those cards go up more than the card that you sold? If yes, then you didn't sell too early. It's fine that card doubled in value because the stuff that you bought with the money from selling that card tripled in value. That's what you got to keep in mind. And I think it's hard to wrap your head around that, and it's hard to let go of that stuff. I know I personally had problems with it. But like I said before, I think 1 year ago me does not sell this card. They hold it. And let me just throw this out there. I mentioned this on Dustin's stream the other day. This is the most expensive card I've ever sold and the most expensive card I've ever shipped. I cannot tell you how many times I checked tracking on this card on its way to the buyer. I refreshed that UPS app at least, 50 to 75 times. So, yeah, that was a fun aspect of this that I did not expect to have going through my head. I understand why people take a little bit less just to sell high dollar cards in person and not have to deal with things like that. I probably lost at least 6 months off my life stressing UPS tracking. Why has it been in that distribution center for 6 hours? Why hasn't it moved yet? So that's all I got for you guys and girls today. So let me know. Should I have held, or was I right to sell at 3.4 and put the money back and play in the market? Time will tell. I'll do a mail day video next week with the tray stuff that I picked up. And if I end up spending the rest of the 1.3 this weekend. So maybe we'll have, you could have had the Vlad Blue, or you could have had this pile of stuff video next week. So like, comment, sub, catch you guys and girls on the next one. And look for me at the Xenia and the Raider Rip show on Sunday. Peace.